Welcome back to math class. Today we're going to continue our journey with algebraic expressions, and today we're going to talk about how we can factor them. So in the last lesson we learned about using the distributive property to simplify expressions, and before that we talked about combining like terms, and so today we're going to practice those skills and we're going to learn how to factor an expression. So what the heck is a factor anyways? It's a number that is multiplied. So when we factor a number, we're basically finding all the ways we can make that number by multiplying. So in this little poster here, for example, if I wanted to factor 24, I'd think of all the ways I could make 24. 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, and 24 would all be the factors of 24. So how could I factor 8? I could go 1 times 8, 2 times 4, and that's pretty much it. I could find the reverse of those as well. So my factors would be 1, 2, 4, and 8 if I put them in order. What about 20? I could go 1 times 20, 2 times 10, 4 times 5, and then I could do those in reverse. So my factors of 20 would be 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, and 20 if I put them in order. And again, that's just a little review. So in order to factor an algebraic expression, we need to find the greatest common factor for the group of numbers, or the GCF. And the greatest common factor, greatest means the biggest factor that some numbers have in common. So the biggest thing that divides evenly into 2 or more numbers. So what is the GCF of 12 and 30, for example? So I'd have to think of all the things that make 12, and it's always good to start with the biggest number, or the number itself, and see if that works. And then I'm thinking of all the things that make 30. Well, let's see, the factors of 12 would be 1 and 12, 2 and 6, and 3 and 4. The factors of 30 would be 1 and 30, then I could go 2 times 15, I could go 3 times 10, I could go 5 times 6. And a lot of this can kind of be done in your head. So then I'm looking for the greatest common factor. What's the biggest factor they have in common? Hopefully you can see that it is 6. So the GCF would be 6. What about 24 and 18? Well, I can forego the listing out thing, and I can kind of just work my way through it. I can start with 18. Will 18 work? No. 18 times, I can't go 18 times something and get 24. But it's a good starting place. I know it's not going to be bigger than 18, so then I think of, okay, what's another factor of 18? 6 is the next biggest factor. Or sorry, 9 is the next biggest factor. 9 won't go into 24. So then I think, okay, what else? 6. Well, 6 will also go into 24, so my GCF would be 6. What about 10 and 5? So again, I'm going to start with the smaller number and see if that works. Well, obviously 5 goes into 5, but will 5 go into 10? Yes, it will. So there you go. All right, so when we factor an expression, we're basically throwing the distributive property in reverse, and we're going to write it as a product of something on the outside of parentheses here. Product means multiply, so we're going to show it this way. So before we were, bumping this out and going 2 times 3 is 6x, 2 times negative 4 is negative 8, and now we're going to take this and we're going to go, hey, the biggest thing that goes into both of these is 2, so I can pull the 2 out and write it that way. All right, so let's look at a couple of examples. How can I factor these? So I'm going to start by figuring out, hey, what's the GCF here? What's the biggest thing that goes into both of these? 2. Okay, well, and then I can divide that 2 out. So what is 2x divided by 2? It's 1x, but I'm not going to write 1x, I'm just going to write x. And what is 2 divided by 2? Sorry, it's kind of sloppy. That is also 1. And what did I pull out of there? I pulled out of the expression in the first place, the 2. Here's another example, 14x and 8. So I can start with the 8, but I know that I can't divide 14 by 8 evenly. So I think what else goes into 8? 4, well, that's not going to work either. So in this case, 2 would be the greatest common factor. So I'm going to write GCF is 2. So then I can divide each of these by 2, since that's the opposite of multiplying. And 14x divided by 2 is 7x. And then 8 divided by 2 would be 4. And then I'm going to slap parentheses on that and times it by 2. A way you can kind of check and see, like, hey, did I do it right? Is first of all, make sure you have the GCF, not just any old factor. And then if I multiply this back out, I should end up with what I started with. Okay, so then if I did this here, I would get 14x plus 8. So it's like a good way to kind of check in and see if you did it right. So in each of those examples, I found the GCF. I divided each term by that common factor, and then here's the part that people tend to mess up and forget about, is you got to put that factor on the outside of the parentheses. All right, so go ahead and pause, copy these steps down. Just like in the previous examples, we're going to box the variables, circle the constants. We're going to find that GCF, the biggest number that goes into both terms. We're going to divide each term by the GCF, and then the last part we're going to put parentheses around whatever we got here, and we're going to put that factor, or GCF, on the outside. All right, so just to be consistent and keep us focused on signs and whatnot, I'm going to box and circle here before I do anything else. And then I'm going to look for that GCF. So what's the biggest thing that goes into 3 and 9? I'm going to start with 3 and see if that works. 3 will divide 3, obviously, and 3 will divide 9 evenly as well. So I'm going to say the GCF is 3. So that's step 2. Step 3 is I'm going to divide each of these things by the GCF. So 3x divided by 3 is just going to give me 1x or x. And 9 divided by 3 is going to give me positive 3. And then step 4, slap parentheses on it and put that GCF on the outside. There you go. All right, let's do one more. I'm going to start by boxing and circling. Helps me pay attention to my variables, my constants, my signs. All right, and then step 2, let's find out GCF. What's the biggest number that goes into both of these? I can start with 8. 8 will divide 8, but it won't divide 12 evenly, so I need to go a little smaller. I can also divide this by 4, and I can divide 12 by 4 as well. So that's my GCF. And step 2. Step 3, I'm going to divide by 4 on both sides. All right, so 12x divided by 4 would give me 3x, and 8 divided by 4 would give me 2. And then step 4, slap some parentheses, take that GCF, put it on the outside, and there you go. All right, let's get some examples into your notebook. So very carefully box and circle. Okay, off to the side here, I want you to write GCF, and let's give it a try. So let's start with the smallest number and see if that works. So 6 will divide 6x, and will it divide 18 evenly? Yes, so I can see my GCF is 6. Step 3, I'm going to divide. This little bar means division here. And then step 4, let's finish it up. So 6x divided by 6 is going to give me 1x, or just x. 18 divided by 6 is going to give me 3. And then now, for realsies, we can do step 4, put parentheses, put that 6 on the outside. Okay, let's do another one. Again, very carefully box and circle it. Try not to ugly it up too much. All right, now let's find the GCF. So I can start with the 4. And let's see, will 4 divide 4 and 16 evenly? Yes, it will. So my GCF is 4. I'm going to use positive 4. If that was negative 16, I could say my GCF is negative 4, but that's not negative. So I'm going to use a positive 4. All right, step 3, let's actually divide. So I'm going to use this big division bar and show my division. And positive divided by negative, so this is going to give me negative 1x, but I'm just going to write negative x. And 16 divided by 4 is going to give me positive 4. And then step 4, parentheses, and put that GCF on the outside. Okay, let's do another one. Before I find my GCF, I'm going to do a little bit of boxing and circling here. All right, so I can start with the 6. 6 will divide 6, but it won't divide 9. So I'm going to use 3. 3 will divide 6, and it'll also divide 9 nice and evenly. So 6x divided by 3 would give me 2x. I'm going to watch my signs here. Magic triangle tells me this is going to be negative, so that's going to be -3. And then step 4, parentheses, and that right there. And let's try one more, shall we? All right, very carefully box and circle. Let's find that GCF. We'll start with 24. Obviously, that's not going to work. So what's the next biggest factor of 24? 12, but that won't work there. Also can be divided by 8. That's not going to work. So let's see, what else is there? There's 6, not going to work. And I can also use 3. So 3 would actually work. So here's my GCF of 3. Divide each side by 3. And then that's going to give me 9x plus 8. And then I'm going to slap a 3 on the outside. The way you know you found the right one is because if you look at the stuff inside, there's nothing else that I could divide those guys out by. Okay, well, that's all for today. Make sure you come with questions tomorrow, and we're going to practice. Plus, we're going to do some harder combining like terms and distributive property problems just to make sure we got it down. All right, get a good night's sleep, and I will see you in class tomorrow. Bye.